more number of people when conversion ratio takes place from investment perspective. But these 30 lakhs, these 3 lakhs, these 4 lakhs, these are not the numbers. Dominantly self-employed sections. Self-employed sections constitute a primary more than 1.5 crore population, which actually doing well for the economy to do well. And through various schemes, various platforms, we've ensured that these self-employed sections are handheld, given support through various schemes. You know, I'll give you an example. Before we had come in, we were talking about self-help groups, which actually constitute more than 1 crore of women. Before we had come in, these self-help groups had an NPA and outstanding loans to the extent of 18%. Today, the same self-help groups, the outstanding loans and the NPAs, if one were to look at in this sector now, it is just 0.3%. And 1 crore of women livelihoods are dependent on that. Same if one were to see the same thing in every scheme like Vahana Mitra, which talks about self-employed sections who actually are driving the cabs or actually driving the autos. If economy there fails, the entire state fails. We're talking about barbers. We're talking about so many sections running into lakhs and together running into crores, which actually have been supported so as to render phenomenal growth rate. In fact, when we had come in 2018-19, our state was figuring probably the least among the states in growth rate, in GSDP growth rates. The last year numbers, if one were to say, we are figuring in top 5 states in the country. If GSDP growth rate were to be figured in. Similarly, every initiative that we've taken in supporting every sector, the MSMEs for instance, our state can boast about that we had ensured that timely MSME incentives were given even during the times of COVID. That actually protected the MSME sector, so much so that today the kind of growth that we have seen in MSE sectors was so unprecedented in the state of Andhra Pradesh. In fact, the reasons have resulted in the state's manufacturing GVA, when viewed as a percentage of India's manufacturing GVA, increasing to 4% during 2019 to 24 from the corresponding figure of 2.9% during 2014 to 19. That was the previous regime. That is the kind of GVA contribution. State's manufacturing GVA to a percentage of India's manufacturing GVA, if one were to compare. We're actually contributing 4% now versus in the previous regime, contributing to only 2.9% in those days. As I've said, the state's services sector contributes to only 40% of the state's GVA when compared to the national average of 55% and when compared to Telangana's state's average of 63%. Now, this is a position that was occasioned by the state's bifurcation that has deprived Andhra Pradesh of Hyderabad city and the economic benefits associated with it. Now, how do we bring about a change that would actually help boost the state's economy. Now, what do we do about Vizag? Now, how do we boost Vizag's growth story so that ultimately we come across a situation where at least 10 years down the line, starting today, at least we compete with Hyderabad, or we compete with Bangalore, or we compete with Chennai. So what exactly does Vision Vizag, Vision Visakha mean? So until and unless we think in those terms, until and unless we have passion for this particular place, for this particular city, this vision can never be visualized, can never be obtained, can never be realized. A lot of people, in fact, when I speak of these words, when I say the first thing what anybody should be doing is to come and stay here as a chief minister. If I were to say this, unfortunately we have an opposition in the state. We all and also a negative media with vested interests who support the opposition. I think many of you also are aware of it, that they make such a hue and cry that, in fact, that we shifting over to Vizag, they try to make an issue out of it, saying that somebody is coming to Vizag because they want to grab the lands here. They want to do that, they want to do that. And these kind of stories shamelessly are written, shamelessly are projected. And all for what? So they don't want the chief minister to come here. They go to the court, court cases are filed. All for what? They don't want chief ministers to come here. Now why? Because if the chief minister comes here, will grow. Because there's ownership which is going to come for this area. There would be a christening of the city as executive capital. So they don't want the chief minister to come here because they have vested interests elsewhere. They bought land before the capital could be announced elsewhere. Thousands of acres in private hands, Benami lands. And they're all scared. The moment this becomes the executive capital, the land rates there would further plunge. And because of this vested interest, today, Vizag has taken the beating. So going forward, I'm here to assure everybody here that there would be changes.